Welcome back, my peeps. How you guys all doing? So this week on the DIY van build, we're going to install our final gray water tank, which is for our kitchen sink. And for this to be a 4-season van, like our original plan said, when we designed this whole cabinet system the other week, we had to ensure we were going to be able to fit the 15-gallon water tank we purchased underneath this counter. And let me tell you, there was a lot of pre-planning here that all had to come together to make sure this was going to work properly. So, let's see if it worked. So the first thing I need to do to make this dream come alive is I need to take these water lines. These are the ones that we ran underneath the floor over to our heater system, so we'll have hot water to our kitchen sink. Now I need to extend these up above where our gray tank is going to sit, giving us full serviceability of all of our lines once that tank's in. And while I take care of that in the background, you guys are going to go get this done, which is the assembly of our gray tank itself. So we have a 15-gallon water tank, a bunch of 1.5 PVC piping, a whole bunch of different fittings, angles, and P-pipes, as well as an 1.5 ball valve drain. And then we purchased these pieces so that we can feed our pipes into our tank and have it completely sealed. These are called such a long time ago I did all this research. I gotta refresh the brain as to what we're actually talking about here. These are called frack. Google. Bulkheads. 1.5 bulkheads, that's what they're called. Of course, it'll all be tagged below. Everything you see here is all available on Amazon as well. But to start this off, I need to get these, what did I call them again? Bulkheads, into the top of the tank and the bottom of the tank so we have a way to feed into it.
Whoa. You almost went down, mofo.
Now to install these bulkhead fittings into this tank, we need to have a way that we can actually put this piece of the bulkhead fitting down into the tank and screw it together. So the first thing we're going to do is install a visual porthole that we can access into the tank. So I found the largest cap I could, which is a 4-inch cap, has a little O-ring on it. And we just traced it out, drilled and cut it out, and now we can cap that off when we seal it down. Whoa. Giving us an access hole to be able to install our bulkhead fitting on the top and the bottom side. And then to cut the hole for these 1.5 bulkhead fittings, I have a 2 3/4 inch hole saw that we're going to drill right into our tank.
Oh, that was close.
That was almost the end of the camera.
I'm gonna say our tripod is finally dead. It's had its day. Those legs don't lock anymore. We're done. I do recommend taking a little sandpaper to the inside of this hole just to make sure when we put this through it's gonna get a good seal and it's not gonna cut into that rubber grommet.
Now to install these bulkheads, you'll see the one side has the rubber gasket on it. That's the part that's going to go to the inside. And then we just take this and we thread it down on until it's super tight like that.
So we just do the exact same thing to the bottom of the tank.
And there we go. We now have our drain installed. We have our fill installed. And our inspection cap fully installed. The only thing left to do on this tank is we need a vent hole. So this tank on the ends does come with pre-threaded 3/8 holes that you could do on a vent. But because where we built our area for this to sit in, it's so tight to fit in there, we don't have enough room to use these side vent holes. So I'm just going to drill right into the top of this cap right here and then thread in this part, which I can bring a vent hose straight up off of, and now we have a vented tank. I should also mention, in case somebody asks, the reason why I put the fill and the drain on the same side of the tank is because this is a baffled tank. So it has baffles in the center, so it stops from sloshing when you're moving in the vehicle. See the baffles? So you can't actually get one of these pieces over to the other side of that tank. So I would have had to drill 2 portholes to be able to have the drain over there. And I just figured, that ain't gonna hurt nothing. We'll just go everything on the same side. But bada bing, bada boom, we should now be able to put water in this and it should hold it. So with these bulkheads, be able to join our pipe to them. You'll see the inside is threaded on the bulkhead. So you get one of these threaded pieces. You will want to add your silicone and whatnot to it, but I'm just going to show you for now. You'll add that to it, and then you're able to add your pipe to that bulkhead. And for testing purposes, I'm just going to mount this into there and put it to off so we can test the bulkheads. And there we go. It's staying perfectly dry. Perfect! And now that the tank is assembled, we know it works. We got our water lines in. We got our cold that's going to come from our fresh tank, goes down in, and both lines come up to our sink. Now we're ready to build a base in which we're going to be able to fit our gray water tank right here underneath the countertop and sink. And one of my favorite parts of this 80/20 is you can add on to it at any time. Just using the push-in fittings, we build the whole base frame for this, and we're now ready to set the gray water tank on top of it. And I'd say it fits like a frickin' glove. What? Look at that. Yeah. So now I want to drop our sink down in to make sure all our pre-planning fits the way I think it was going to. Oh, and that's freaking close. So the important part was that the drain is lower than the sink, which it is by a good inch or so. And then our P-pipe will come down off of our drain, and it's gonna, we are talking a game of millimeters, my friends. But our pre-planning seemed to work, and that's all gonna mount up and drain exactly as planned. But we're not gonna get to the sink. I'm not even gonna show it to you yet, because that's gonna be a video all in itself. But I tell you, you're not gonna wanna miss it. So make sure you hit that like, the subscribe, as well as that bell if you haven't done so yet. And please, leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about the placement of our kitchen gray tank. But now that we know everything fits, it's time to strap it down. And we're going to use this 3/4 inch galvanized steel strapping, which handles about 130 pounds per strap, and 15 gallons of water, it's going to equal about 125. So with 3 straps going across, meaning once again, we're way overkill for the job. Now to attach this strapping with these holes that are in the galvanized steel, our 5/16 18 bolts fit right through. And you can see, bolt to that framing, super solid. So we're just gonna bolt it from the back bar here, around to the front, and we'll bolt into the front here, and that tank ain't going nowhere. It's freaking solid, like you will break one of those valves off before that thing even budges. So for the straps, to get the bolts to line up, all I did is I just cut some rubber stripping again. And this one took like 2 strips. This one only took 1 strip. And I think that one took 2 strips as well. And then once they're on there, they go nice and tight. And we just tighten our bolts in. And all we got to install now is our drain. Which of course, we put, what's it called again? Our bulkhead on the bottom side. So we just got a 90-degree coming off that bulkhead at the bottom, and we're going to bring it straight out over past where the stairs go. So we just have our piping and that valve I talked about, and going with all 1.5-inch piping the whole way back and down underneath the van. Just makes, because it's a gray tank, any type of food bits or anything will come rushing out through the big pipe, straight down and out the bottom of the van as discussed.
Which means for me, I have to lay back down on the gravel again. So we'll grab our big piece of cardboard from the other side of the van, and we'll lay it down on this side of the van, and we're ready to get to work now. By the way, have I ever told you about my vacuum and how important a vacuum is when doing a van build like this? Especially when working with this aluminum framing, because so let me tell you, you end up with these little tiny aluminum bits absolutely freaking everywhere. No joke. You will find these little aluminum bits in places you didn't even know you had. So having a good vacuum is a huge necessity for this type of project. But getting back to the project in front of us, from underneath the van, we can actually see where that step is on the base of the floor. And this is exactly where we want our drain to come out for that gray water tank. Because it's only gray water, you can pretty much drain it anywhere. Now, if we're not in an area we keep it in the storage tank, of course. Once you get out to a gravel road or over top of a sewer drain, you can drain your gray water because environmentally safe soaps, and it's just water and maybe a little bit of food bits. Nothing that's going to hurt anything. So we'll be able to pull it from up top and it'll drain down out underneath the van where nobody even notice. So first I'm going to drill a hole up through the bottom just to make sure we're in the right spot, because based on where that area is there and where this area is here, it's actually pretty hard to measure it out. But I think we've got her pretty close. So we'll drill a small hole up to make sure we're dead on, because it's a lot easier to fix a small hole than it is a big 2-inch hole saw hole. So here goes nothing. Well, I know for sure we now have a hole in that floor. Let's see where it brought us. Right there. So if I take our hole saw and I set it down on the center of that, we're good. We nailed it. We nailed it. So now I just go through it with this from the top down. Whoops, forgot to hit record. And the battery's dead. And guess what? We now have a 2-inch hole in the floorboard of our van. Let's see how it went through down here. Well, I'd say we hit it dead on, right where we were hoping it would go. So now we'll prime up the metal and we're ready to put our pipes through. So for myself, I just went to the hardware store and I just bought a whole bunch of different like 90-degree bends, 45-degree bends, fittings with threads on the ends. And then for every fitting I did buy, I got ones with female ends as well as one with male ends. That way I knew I can plug into whatever it is we needed to plug into as we design this drain in to go from there to there and outside the van. And I'll admit, I went through a few designs trying to get this exactly the way I wanted it to be. So first, with our valve, I thought I would just put it through there so that I'd be able to put a door on the front and you'd be able to access that on-off valve to drain it out the bottom. And then this hose would just mount on and go straight across back to our drain at the tank. But to be a full 4-season van, my fear is that air could still come up through the bottom and it would end up freezing that valve if, say, we were in like -30 temperature out skiing or something. So then I decided I'll keep the valve up at the top and we run it in and then go straight down through our hole again into the floor. But the problem with this was the location of that valve ended up giving us problems because of our sliding screen door and trying to put a door on that so that when you're looking, you don't actually see this stuff until you open a hatch. So it had to get a little more complex, but I think we got a winning plan. So to cut this PVC piping, we just take it, we put it on our miter saw,
and it cuts through using that exact same blade we've been cutting all our aluminum with. To attach a female pipe to a male pipe, we use this glue, which is a standard yellow ABS adhesive. And when you open it up, it does have its own little swab. So you just sand down all the ends of your pipes, make sure they're nice and smooth with no burrs. Apply this stuff all the way around the edge, and then just push them together and let it dry. And now we have a gray tank with a drain system in our van that looks kind of like this. We have a black tank with a drain coming off, with an on-off valve. Okay, that's open so it'll drain. That's closed so it'll stay closed. It comes back down around and then down out the hole. And come out the bottom side of the van, pushing it towards the center. Now this does create more fittings, of course. The best way to have a leak-proof system is the least amount of fittings possible. But for us, in the cold air could blow up through this pipe and make its way to this valve. So my thought process is having some bends and some distance before it gets here. It gives it a chance for that air to warm up so that it can't freeze our valve on us when it's up here in the warm cabin of ROAMR. And once we build this whole cabinet area in and just have a door for that where you'll only see the valve when you open it up, I'm going to say we got a pretty slick and professional looking system at that. And once again confirms that here at Dares Drives, we are building a true 4-season van. And yes, it's taken time. Nobody feels it more than I do, trust me. But I like to think it builds the anticipation to what ROAMR's gonna look like when it's all finished. So with that being said, if you haven't subscribed yet, maybe consider doing so. If you have subscribed, hit that bell. And I will see you on the next video. Perfect.